The knife gleamed under the dim red light of the warehouse as two voices spoke in perfect unison behind her. "We'll make you scream tonight." Amaka's heart stopped. She'd walked into hell thinking it was a job interview. Instead, she found herself trapped between two Korean Mafia enforcers who looked at her not like prey, but like salvation. Ji-hyun stepped closer, his scarred knuckles brushing her trembling hand. "Not from fear," he whispered. "From everything we'll make you feel." His twin brother, Seung-jun, circled behind her, his breath warm against her neck. "We've waited our whole lives for you." And in that suffocating moment, something ancient and terrifying awakened in both men, a recognition that shattered every rule they'd ever lived by. Welcome to Afrokorean romance. If you believe in love, please like, share, and subscribe to get more Afrokorean romance stories. Amaka had arrived in Seoul 3 weeks earlier with nothing but a suitcase and a dream that refused to die. At 26, she'd left Lagos after her father's business collapsed, leaving her family drowning in debt. The job posting had seemed legitimate: personal assistant to international businessmen, competitive salary, immediate placement. She should have known better. Nothing good ever came that easy. The warehouse stood in the industrial district of Incheon, far from the glittering towers of Gangnam. Amaka clutched her worn purse as she approached, her heels clicking against wet concrete. The rain had started an hour ago, soaking through her only professional dress, the navy one she'd bought second-hand from Dongdaemun Market. She told herself the nervous flutter in her stomach was excitement. It wasn't. Inside, the air smelled like motor oil and something metallic she couldn't identify. Her footsteps echoed as she moved deeper into the space. Shadows shifted between stacked crates. Then she heard it. Two voices speaking simultaneously, their Korean accented but clear. "You came." Amaka spun around. Two men emerged from the darkness, identical in every way that mattered. Both stood over 6 feet tall with shoulders that strained against tailored black suits. Their faces were carved from the same brutal elegance, all sharp cheekbones and dangerous eyes. But it was those eyes that stopped her breath. One man had a scar cutting through his left eyebrow. The other wore a silver ring on his right hand. Otherwise, they were mirrors of each other. "I'm here for the assistant position," Amaka managed, her voice steadier than her heartbeat. "The ad said to come at midnight." The man with the scar smiled first. It wasn't a kind expression. "I'm Ji-hyun. This is my brother Seung-jun, and you're not here for a job." Before she could run, Seung-jun moved with inhuman speed, blocking the exit. "Don't be afraid," he said softly. "We're not going to hurt you." Ji-hyun approached slowly, hands visible, palms open. "We need you to understand something. 3 months ago, our boss received a prophecy from a fortune teller in Busan. She said 2 brothers would meet a woman who carries light in her blood, a woman who would either save us or destroy us." He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that Amaka could smell his cologne, cedar and smoke. "The moment you walked in, I felt it, like something inside me recognized something inside you." Amaka's mind raced. This was insane. She needed to leave. But when she looked at Seung-jun blocking her only escape, she saw something in his expression that wasn't threat. It was longing, raw and desperate. "I don't understand," she whispered. "I'm just a girl looking for work. I don't have light in my blood. I'm not special." "You're Nigerian," Ji-hyun said, not a question. "Your name means someone precious, and you came to Korea alone with nothing because you're trying to save your family." How did he know that? Amaka's hands trembled. "I should go." "We can't let you," Seung-jun said from behind her. "Not yet, not until you hear everything." The next hour passed in a blur of impossible revelations. The twins were enforcers for the Choi Syndicate, one of Seoul's oldest criminal organizations. They'd been raised in violence, trained to eliminate threats without hesitation, respected and feared throughout the underworld. But they'd never felt anything real until tonight. "We don't believe in fate," Ji-hyun said, packing the warehouse floor. "We believe in power and control, but when you walked in, everything changed. I felt my heart start beating for the first time in years." Seung-jun nodded. "Like waking up from a coma, like every moment before now was just preparation for meeting you." Amaka pressed her back against a crate, needing the solid support. This is crazy. You don't know me. I could be anyone. You're not anyone, Ji-hyun said, his voice dropping to something almost reverent. You're the woman who makes us want to be different, better, human. He moved closer, and Amaka found she couldn't retreat further. His hand lifted slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His scarred knuckles brushed her cheek with shocking gentleness. We'll make you scream tonight, he whispered. Not from fear, from realizing you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Later that night, they drove her back to her tiny Gashiwan room in Itaewon. The silence in the black sedan was heavy with unspoken things. Amaka sat in the back seat, flanked by both brothers, their proximity overwhelming. You can't just kidnap people and tell them about fate, she said, trying to inject some normalcy into the surreal situation. We didn't kidnap you, Seung-jun pointed out. You came willingly. Under false pretenses. Would you have come if the ad said meet your destiny? Ji-hyun asked. Despite everything, Amaka almost smiled. Definitely not. When they arrived at her building, Ji-hyun walked her to the door while Seung-jun waited in the car. The narrow hallway smelled like kimchi and old carpet. What happens now? Amaka asked. Ji-hyun leaned against the wall, studying her with those intense dark eyes. Now you go inside. You think about everything we said, and tomorrow we'll come back. And if I don't want to see you again? Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe. Then we'll respect that, but we'll still watch over you, because even if you don't feel this yet, we do, and we protect what's ours. I'm not yours, Amaka said, but the words lacked conviction. Ji-hyun smiled, the expression transforming his dangerous features into something almost beautiful. Not yet. The following morning, Amaka woke to find a black box outside her door. Inside was a new phone, top of the line with a single contact saved. For emergencies, the attached note read in neat Korean script. We know you're struggling. This phone has unlimited everything. Use it. JH and SJ. Amaka should have refused it, should have thrown it away. Instead, she found herself clutching it like a lifeline. 2 days later, she was working her shift at the convenience store in Hongdae when 3 men walked in. They weren't customers. Amaka recognized predators when she saw them. You're the girl, one of them said in broken English. The one with the Lee twins. Her blood turned cold. I don't know what you're talking about. The man smiled, revealing gold teeth. Don't play stupid. We have eyes everywhere. You were seen getting into their car. That makes you valuable. Before Amaka could scream, he grabbed her arm. Pain shot through her shoulder as he dragged her toward the door. The store's owner, an elderly woman, shouted in Korean but didn't intervene. Then the door chimed. Ji-hyun and Seung-jun entered together, moving with synchronized precision that spoke of years fighting side by side. Let her go, Ji-hyun said softly. The atmosphere shifted. The 3 men released Amaka immediately, hands raised. We didn't know, the leader stammered in Korean. We thought she was just some girl. She's not just some girl, Seung-jun said, his voice like ice. She's under Choi family protection, which means touching her is touching us. The men fled. Amaka collapsed against the counter, adrenaline making her shake. Ji-hyun caught her before she fell, his arms wrapping around her with surprising care. You're okay, he murmured. You're safe, we've got you. That evening, they took her to their apartment, a penthouse in Gangnam that overlooked the Han River. Amaka sat on their leather couch, wrapped in Seung-jun's jacket, trying to process everything. How did you know I was in danger? She asked. Ji-hyun emerged from the kitchen with tea, prepared exactly how she liked it, though she'd never told him. We've had people watching you since the warehouse, not to spy, to protect. After tonight, those people know you matter to us. You're a target now. That's not fair, Amaka protested. I didn't ask for any of this. Life isn't fair, Seung-jun said, sitting beside her. But we're going to make sure you survive it anyway. A few days later, Amaka moved into their guest room. She told herself it was temporary, just until the danger passed. But as the weeks stretched on, temporary became indefinite. The twins were unlike anyone she'd ever known. Ji-hyun cooked breakfast every morning, traditional Korean food made with care. Seung-jun left books on her nightstand, romance novels in English he'd somehow known she loved. They asked about her family, remembered every detail she shared, treated her not like a burden but like something precious. Amaka felt herself softening, despite every logical reason not to. One night, she found Ji-hyun alone on the balcony, smoking and staring at the city lights. "Can't sleep?" she asked. He turned, and something in his expression made her breath catch. "I keep thinking about how different my life would be if you'd never walked into that warehouse." "Better," she teased gently. "No," he said seriously. "Empty. I've done terrible things, Amaka, but when I'm with you, I feel like maybe I'm not completely beyond redemption." Amaka moved closer, drawn by the raw honesty in his voice. "You're not a bad person, Ji-hyun. You don't know what I've done. I know who you are with me, and that's the person I choose to see." By the end of the week, the dynamics had shifted irrevocably. Amaka no longer felt like a guest. She felt like she belonged. Both brothers competed for her attention in ways that should have been annoying but somehow felt endearing. Seung-jun brought her coffee every morning, memorizing her exact preferences. Ji-hyun left notes on the bathroom mirror, Korean phrases he wanted to teach her, always with English translations. They never pushed, never demanded, just waited with infinite patience for her to catch up to what they'd known from the beginning. Then everything changed. Amaka was grocery shopping in the market near their apartment when she saw him. A Nigerian man, early 30s, impeccably dressed. He approached with a bright smile. "I heard your Igbo from across the market," he said in their shared language. "It's been so long since I've heard home." Relief flooded through Amaka. She'd been in Korea for 2 months without speaking her native language. They talked for 20 minutes, exchanging stories about Lagos, family, the strange beauty of Seoul. She didn't notice the dark sedan pulling up, didn't see Ji-hyun and Seung-jun emerge with expressions carved from stone. "Amaka," Ji-hyun said, his voice carrying an edge she'd never heard before. She turned, smiling. "Ji-hyun, Seung-jun, this is Chitty. He's from Lagos too. We were just talking about home." But neither brother returned her smile. Seung-jun's hand rested on Chitty's shoulder, the gesture appearing friendly but clearly a threat. "Conversation's over," he said quietly. Chitty wisely excused himself. Amaka stared at the twins in disbelief. "What was that? He was just being friendly." "He was touching your arm," Ji-hyun said flatly. "He was laughing with you, looking at you like—" He cut himself off, jaw clenched. "Like what?" Amaka demanded. "Like he had the right," Seung-jun finished. "Like you were available, you're not." The argument continued in the car, Amaka's frustration building. "I'm not yours to control. I can talk to whoever I want." "Not men who look at you that way," Ji-hyun said from the driver's seat. "Not men who want what's ours." "I'm not yours," Amaka shouted. The car went silent. When they reached the apartment, both brothers disappeared into their respective rooms without another word. Amaka sat alone in the living room, her anger slowly transforming into something more complicated. They'd been jealous, possessive, wrong. But underneath the controlling behavior, she'd seen something else. Fear of losing her. Later that night, Ji-hyun knocked on her door. "Can we talk?" Amaka let him in, her defenses still raised. He sat on the edge of her bed, hands clasped. "I'm sorry. I had no right to act that way. You're free to talk to anyone you want." "But—" He looked up and the vulnerability in his eyes stole her breath. "But it kills me, watching someone else make you smile, knowing he shares something with you that we never can. Your language, your culture, your memories of home." "Ji-hyun, I know it's selfish," he continued. "I know we have no claim on you, but from the moment you walked into that warehouse, you became the center of my world, and I don't know how to pretend otherwise." Amaka's anger dissolved. She sat beside him, their shoulders touching. "You don't have to pretend, but you can't control who I talk to. That's not love, that's possession." "What if I don't know the difference?" Ji-hyun asked quietly. What if everything I learned about caring for someone is twisted and wrong? Then we figure it out together, Amaka said. But you have to trust me, both of you. The following morning brought an uneasy truce. Seung-jun apologized over breakfast, his words careful and sincere. They promised to work on their jealousy, to give her space. But Amaka could see the effort it cost them, the constant battle between their instincts and their desire to be better for her. That evening, everything shattered. Amaka was alone in the apartment when the door burst open. Not the twins, 3 masked men moving with military precision. She screamed, running for the panic button Ji-hyun had installed in every room. She almost reached it. A hand clamped over her mouth. Chemical-soaked cloth pressed against her face. The world tilted, darkness rushing in. When Ji-hyun and Seung-jun returned an hour later, they found chaos. Furniture overturned, Amaka's phone shattered on the floor, and a message spray-painted on the wall in red. The Park family sends their regards. Ji-hyun's roar of rage echoed through the building. Seung-jun was already on the phone, mobilizing every resource they had. The Park family was their oldest rival, a crime syndicate that had been testing boundaries for months. Taking Amaka was a declaration of war. "We get her back," Ji-hyun said, his voice deadly calm now. "Whatever it takes, whoever we have to go through, we burn their empire to the ground if that's what it takes." Seung-jun nodded. "Already on it. I've got teams tracking every Park property in Seoul. We'll find her." But hours passed with no leads. Amaka had vanished like smoke. The twins worked through the night, calling in favors, threatening informants, following every thread. Nothing. It was as if she'd never existed. Meanwhile, Amaka woke in a cold concrete room, hands bound, head pounding. A single bulb hung from the ceiling, casting harsh shadows. The door opened. A man entered, well-dressed, middle-aged, carrying himself with the authority of someone used to power. "Miss Amaka," he said in perfect English. "I'm Park Sung-ho. I apologize for the rough treatment, but the Lee twins don't respond well to polite invitations." "What do you want?" Amaka's voice was hoarse. "Information. The twins have been moving against my business interests. I need to know their plans, their contacts, their vulnerabilities." He smiled. "And fortunately, it seems you've become their biggest vulnerability of all." "I don't know anything about their business." "Perhaps not consciously, but you live with them. You hear things, see things, and even if you know nothing," his smile turned cruel, "your suffering will bring them to me. Either way, you're useful." Amaka's mind raced. She needed to survive long enough for rescue, if rescue was even coming. "They won't negotiate with you," she said. "They'll just come for me." "Oh, I'm counting on it," Park Sung-ho replied. "I have a building surrounded by armed men, explosives on every floor, and you as bait in the center. When the twins come for you, and they will, they'll walk into a trap they can't escape." 2 days passed. Amaka was given minimal food, no water. Her captors wanted her weak, compliant. She used the time to study her prison, looking for any advantage. The window was barred, but the bars were old, rusted. The door lock was electronic, but the wiring was exposed. Small details that might mean nothing or might mean everything. On the 3rd day, she heard it. Gunfire. Distant at first, then closer. Shouting in Korean. The building shook with an explosion. The twins had come. Park Sung-ho burst into her room, gun drawn. "On your feet. You're my insurance policy now." He dragged Amaka through corridors filled with smoke and chaos. More gunfire. A man fell nearby, blood spreading across expensive tile. They reached a stairwell just as the door above exploded inward. Ji-hyun and Seung-jun descended like avenging angels, guns raised, faces splattered with blood that wasn't theirs. They moved in perfect synchronization, clearing threats with brutal efficiency. "Let her go," Ji-hyun said, his voice empty of emotion. That absence was more terrifying than any rage. Park Sung-ho pressed his gun to Amaka's temple. "One more step, and I paint the walls with her brain." Everything stopped. The twins froze, weapons still raised but fingers off triggers. For the first time since Amaka had known them, she saw fear in their eyes. Real, paralyzing fear. Okay, Seung-jun said slowly. Okay, just don't hurt her. We'll put down our weapons. No, Amaka shouted. He's going to kill all of us anyway, don't. Park Sung-ho struck her with the gun. Pain exploded across her cheek. She tasted blood. That was a mistake. The twins moved. Amaka had thought she'd seen them fight before, but this was different. This was violence stripped of all restraint, all mercy, all humanity. Seung-jun's shot took Park Sung-ho in the shoulder. He dropped his gun. Ji-hyun closed the distance in 2 strides, disarming him with a move that broke 3 of his fingers. Amaka fell to her knees, free but shaking. Seung-jun was there immediately, gathering her into his arms. I've got you, he murmured. You're safe, we've got you. Ji-hyun stood over Park Sung-ho, gun pressed to the man's forehead. Give me one reason not to end you right now. Because you're better than that, Amaka said quietly. Because I need you to be better than that. Ji-hyun's hand trembled. Then slowly he lowered the weapon. You're right. He looked at his men who had secured the building. Call the police, anonymous tip. Let them find Park Sung-ho and all the evidence of his operations. We do this clean. Later, at a safe house across the city, Amaka finally broke down. All the terror she'd held at bay came flooding out. She sobbed in the twins' arms, unable to stop shaking. I was so scared, she gasped. I thought I'd never see you again, I thought. SHH, Ji-hyun soothed, stroking her hair. You're safe, we're here, nothing will ever hurt you again. We failed you, Seung-jun said, his voice thick with guilt. We promised to protect you and we failed. You came for me, Amaka said. That's what matters. That night they stayed with her, one on each side, their presence a wall against the darkness. Amaka felt something shift inside her, something she'd been fighting since the warehouse. She loved them, both of them. It was impossible and complicated and completely terrifying, but it was true. The next morning, Ji-hyun made breakfast while Seung-jun tended to Amaka's wounds. They moved around each other with practiced ease, a unit forged in violence but held together by something softer. We need to talk, Ji-hyun said as they sat down to eat. Amaka's stomach nodded. About what? About what happens now, Seung-jun said. Park Sung-ho's arrest will destabilize the underworld. There will be a power vacuum. Other families will move to fill it. Things will get dangerous. More dangerous than being kidnapped, Amaka asked dryly. Yes, Ji-hyun said seriously. Much more. Which is why we think you should leave Korea. Go home to Lagos. We'll pay off your family's debts, set you up with enough money to start over. You'll be safe. Amaka stared at them. You're sending me away. We're setting you free, Seung-jun corrected. You never asked for this life. We dragged you into our world and almost got you killed. The right thing is to let you go. And what if I don't want to go? Amaka's voice was barely a whisper. The twins exchanged glances. Why would you stay? Ji-hyun asked. Because I love you, Amaka said, the words rushing out. Both of you, I know it's crazy, I know it's impossible. But when I was in that room, thinking I might die, all I could think about was never seeing you again, never telling you how I feel. Silence. Then Ji-hyun was out of his chair, crossing to her, falling to his knees. Say it again. I love you, Amaka repeated, tears streaming down her face. I love you both. Seung-jun joined them, his hand finding hers. We love you. We've loved you since the moment you walked into that warehouse. Everything we've done, every choice we've made has been about keeping you safe, keeping you in our lives. Then don't send me away, Amaka pleaded. Let me choose to stay, let me choose you. What followed was a conversation that lasted hours. They talked about expectations, about fears, about what a life together might look like. The twins were honest about their world, about the danger that would always exist. Amaka was honest about her doubts, her insecurities, her fear that she wasn't enough for either of them. You're more than enough, Ji-hyun said fiercely. You're everything. By the end of the week, they'd made their decision. Amaka would stay. They would face whatever came together. But first, they had to clean up the mess Park Sung-ho had left behind. The following months were a blur of tension and change. Ji-hyun and Seung-jun worked to consolidate power, to ensure no other family would dare target them again. Amaka found herself drawn into their world, not as a victim but as a partner. Her outsider perspective, her ability to see solutions they'd missed, made her invaluable. She started taking Korean lessons seriously, learning the language of business and strategy. She reached out to other women in their world, forming alliances, building networks. She became not just the twins' weakness, but their strength. One night, 6 months after the kidnapping, Ji-hyun and Seung-jun asked her to dress up. They took her to a private restaurant overlooking the Han River, the same view from their apartment, but somehow more beautiful. "We have something to ask you," Seung-jun said as dessert was served. They stood together, moving in that synchronized way she'd come to love. Both dropped to one knee. Both pulled out identical boxes. "We know this isn't conventional," Ji-hyun began. "We know people will judge," Seung-jun continued. "But we also know that our lives began the night you walked into that warehouse," Ji-hyun said. "And we want to spend the rest of our lives proving we're worthy of you," Seung-jun finished. Together, they opened the boxes. 2 rings, clearly a set, one with Ji-hyun's name engraved inside, one with Seung-jun's. "Will you marry us?" they asked in unison. Amaka's tears came fast and unstoppable. "Yes, God, yes, of course, yes." The wedding was small, private, technically illegal in Korea, but recognized in a country where such unions were permitted. Amaka's family flew in from Lagos, shocked but supportive once they saw how the twins looked at their daughter. With worship, with devotion, with a love so fierce it had reshaped their entire world. A year later, Amaka stood in the nursery of their expanded penthouse, one hand resting on her swollen belly. 8 months pregnant, exhausted, more happy than she'd ever imagined possible. Ji-hyun appeared in the doorway, followed by Seung-jun. They'd taken to finishing work early, neither willing to miss a moment of this pregnancy. "How are you feeling?" Ji-hyun asked, his hand joining hers on her stomach. "Huge, tired, perfect." Seung-jun wrapped his arms around both of them. "We're having a baby." "You say that every day," Amaka laughed. "Because every day I still can't believe it's real," he replied. That night, as they lay together in their massive bed, Amaka between them as always, she thought about that first night in the warehouse. How terrified she'd been, how impossible everything had seemed. "We'll make you scream tonight," they'd promised. They'd kept that promise, not with fear, but with love so consuming it had transformed all of them. They'd walked through fire together, survived impossible odds, built a family from the ashes of their old lives. "I love you," she whispered into the darkness. "We love you," they replied in unison, the way they did everything. Together, always together. And in that moment, with their baby moving inside her and their hearts beating in synchronization, Amaka knew she was finally, truly home.